We're live. Welcome to Talk Airwaves.
Hello, hello.
Best source for wrong think out there.
That's right.
We're going to tell you the stuff that they don't approve of, and we'll probably get taken off the waves before you know it. But while we're here, and we're going to share what we think. How you doing tonight, Skeeve?
Doing pretty good. I need an excuse to learn more about self-hosting anyway, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I do too. I have not put enough effort into learning how to run servers other than Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi, but I don't think that really counts.
But on my to-do list that I have been procrastinating on is set up a little, I want just like a little home server. I can run Jitsi and Mastodon and basic stuff like that.
Nice. You're going to build your own version of the embassy?
Yeah, that's really my only complaint about the embassy is I would just want a lot more horsepower because I would want to be able to host stuff for all my family and things like that. And
yeah,
I think I can do my own kind of version of an embassy off of an old desktop or something like that.
Yeah. So I just had a random topic fly into my head that isn't really on the agenda.
Okay.
Did you hear about the Freedom Phone at all?
A little bit. It looks like it's by the same people that did Parler, right?
I don't know if it's by the same people. There's like some guy that was in the news for being the world's youngest Bitcoin millionaire at one point.
Okay.
And he decided to make this phone that's supposedly private that I don't think is really private.
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of research, but it looks like a honeypot to me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if it's like the hardware is bad, but I don't think it's that hard to match a name with a phone and then to triangulate it.
Anybody interested in that stuff? Calyx OS is one that I've been hearing very good things about as far as being easy to use. And then graphene is obviously kind of the gold standard or Bitcoin standard as far as I don't know, security on a mobile device, stuff like that.
I'm about 60 seconds from a flip phone. I think that's way better than both.
I was a BlackBerry holdout until about 2015 because I just fucking hate touch screens with a passion. And then I needed GPS, but I periodically would go back to reactivating my BlackBerry, and then I'd activate a flip phone for a while because I'd get angry at my iPhone and things like that. So I probably won't go the graphene route. I'll probably just ditch smartphone altogether before too long.
I mean, I think that's the only reasonable one. I think with most flip phones, you can take the battery out, which is a major positive. But yeah, one thing that was interesting about the Freedom Phone, as they call it, was how many hit pieces came out on it instantaneously.
So that makes it sound kind of legit then.
It was like the greatest. The ones that were hating on it too are the ones you would want to be hating on it, like the Daily Beast.
Okay.
Like one of the worst news publications out there.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason why there were so many hit pieces is because of what they're calling an uncensorable app store where you can still access Parler.
Okay.
And as we know, Apple and Google delisted Parler from their app store. So I think it's more about big tech's monopoly than it is, it actually being a private phone.
And there's, it's from what I've seen, it's nowhere near ready for prime time, but Purism is a company. They've got a laptop that's like, I don't know, looks reasonably good, but they've got a phone, like a Linux phone coming out, and the stuff I've read on it, the battery is dog shit, and it's, like I said, it's not ready for prime time, but
interesting.
At least the ethos looks very nice.
Yeah.
I was going to get one to play around with it, but they're like $600, and I was like, that is far too much to spend on something to play around with.
Yeah. So yeah, we're both Bitcoiners, but do you think technology is an overall bad thing?
In general, I would say it's neutral. I think people are generally completely ill-equipped to handle it. I mean, like this whole idea of, you know, like being able to see, you know, like all these flashing images, you know, naked people, whatever, like at all time, like the evolutionary that, you know, on an evolutionary timeline, that stuff came about like 30 milliseconds ago. And people, I think, are just, you know, not to go full Marty Ben, but it's like, that's my critique of, you know, porn and stuff like that, is not like some kind of moral crusade or religion or anything like that, but just, it's like a very new thing evolutionarily to have that kind of stimulus. And I just don't think our brains are adapted for it. And I think it's toxic because of that. The bad toxic, not the Bitcoin toxic.
Eric Voorhees type of toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the kids are getting so exposed to these things right off the bat.
Yeah.
And it's just everywhere. It's just so pervasive. And like, you know, if you're like we know that sexualizing children is extremely, extremely destructive.
Yeah.
You know, because they're just not developed enough to be experiencing stuff like that. And when they stumble across stuff like that on the internet, and like you said, it's like, you know, addicting and arousing and, you know, all these things, I don't see it a huge
fuck Eric Voorhees. That's right.
I agree.
Yeah.
He had some good fails this week.
Oh my gosh. He had a pretty nice exchange with Ben the Carman. You guys should go check out. Of course, Ben the Carman roasting him as always.
I'm a big fan of Ben.
Yeah. Huge fan.
But yeah, Eric Voorhees
I wouldn't say that to his face. If it was to Ben the Carman's face, I would tell him he sucks. But since he's not here, he's awesome.
I heard he was in Colombia.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eric Voorhees came out with the ultimate dismantling of Bitcoin. He stated that if an asteroid hit the Earth, the Bitcoin network wouldn't be around anymore.
Yeah.
That was great. Good job, Eric.
Yeah.
You win.
It's like the people that talk about, oh, what if we break encryption through quantum computers, whatever? It's like, then Bitcoin won't work. And it's like, yeah, neither will your bank, you know, nuclear silos, like, so, you know, it's just encryption in general. But I don't know. It's not something I lose any sleep over.
I don't know. If we could have a world without nuclear weapons and without Bitcoin, would that be worth it?
No, I think Bitcoin will get rid of nuclear weapons, or at least, yeah. I don't know. I think it'll, I don't know. I guess it's just kind of that idea of like decreasing returns to violence of, you know, if you have these big, you know, what are nuclear weapons deployed by? Big, giant national federal governments, you know, the USSR, China, you know, India, Pakistan, US, all these different countries. And, you know, the lifespan of those kinds of entities, I think is a lot shorter than a lot of people realize. And yeah, I see that stuff definitely trending towards zero.
Yeah, I hope so.
But no, I can't think of anything that I would give up Bitcoin for. Like, I think it's easily the most important development the world has going on right now.
Yeah, makes sense. I was told that there is a story of a doomsday plane that only is flown and used for, you know, extreme circumstances that the Secretary of Defense flew into Area 51 on today.
Really?
Yeah.
That I would like to hear more about. That's interesting.
I didn't read the article. I need to read it. But yeah, it is interesting. I think this is just like something that we could be like minutes from disaster as a world, you know, from some sort of nuclear disaster and have no knowledge of it whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, there were several. I mean, during the Cold War, like there was I'm trying to remember, I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was off the coast of South Carolina. There was like like a nuclear submarine that got lost basically and got way too close to South Carolina, and they thought it was like an attack on the mainland, all different, you know. And then obviously Cuban Missile Crisis too, things like that. But no, there have been a lot of, I mean, it's the government handling the most powerful weapon the world has ever known. Like, surprise, surprise, it didn't go great.
It's people.
Yeah.
People are handling people like us.
But it's like, if those people are corrupt assholes with no accountability and unlimited resources, changes the equation.
Yeah. Yeah. So we titled this "The Cathedral is Burning."
That's right. It sure is.
I think there's been some, pretty exciting developments globally. We've been full totalitarian as a world for a bit now, and people aren't very happy about it. They're pushing back. It's pretty. When I see things like what's coming out of France and what's coming out of a lot of parts in Europe, it kind of makes me feel hopeful and excited that this many people are up in arms about it.
And if you're not familiar with the term the cathedral, there's a guy named Mencius Moldbug or Curtis Yarvin, who is a good one to read and listen to on that. It's basically the idea is it's like the kind of elite structure that sort of runs like, the corporate media and corporate press and the politicians who are downstream of that. But so the idea the cathedral is burning, it's like these people that think they're in power are absolutely losing control, and it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. I mean, they cannot get a coherent narrative.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they're scrambling so hard because it's like I'm sure a lot of people have said this, but I saw Stoney on Twitter point this out this week of this idea, like, somebody asked the question basically, why are they so scared right now? Like, why are they so frantic, like freaking out or whatever? And he's like, because treasuries aren't worth anything and people are starting to realize it. That's why. It's like, this idea that, we're the ones under the thumb and they're all powerful and, we need to bow down before them and, be concerned about them and just give up our privacy, go live in a pod, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, fuck yourself. Like, we've got all the time in the world. Like, we got sats sitting in cold storage. If this takes 6 months, 6 years, or 16 years, we're good to go. Like, we're, hopefully people listening to this aren't leveraged, aren't playing any of those dumb trading games, anything like that. Like, it's just
trading on Thorchain.
Yeah, trading on Thorchain, listening to Eric Voorhees, any of that. No, it's keep it in cold storage, keep it safe, constantly be building your chops as far as security and getting better and better with that, and just kind of do what you can to support the revolution, until the fireworks start.
Yeah, print guns, not money.
That's right.
I think this is why Bitcoin is so incredibly important, because without the fiat currency, they don't have any control. They literally have no control.
Yeah. And it's a very common view that it's like the dollar is supported by the military. And, I think what most of us know is that the reality is the opposite, that the military is supported by the dollar. Once the dollar falls, the military falls, the country falls, the federal government falls. And that's it. I absolutely, I love this country and what it stands for, but I, despise the government. And sooner we get rid of that, the better.
And I think that's really an important thing to distinguish the difference between the government and this country. And I think a lot of people struggle to see the difference. Mm-hmm. This is something that Rothbard outlines right at the beginning of his book. Gosh, I just had a brain fart. It's that short one. Anatomy of the State.
Anatomy of the State, yeah.
People are not the government.
That's the one Rothbard book I've read all the way through. It's because it's the short one.
Yeah. I've definitely skimmed some other Rothbard, but
I think I've been working on Man, Economy, and State for like 2 years or something like that. Same with Human Action.
Yeah. Every time I get really upset, like we were watching the presidential debate, and I just put in some headphones and started reading Anatomy of the State because I couldn't handle it anymore. Like, this is just so silly. Everybody's just really wanting to pick their guy because they want that guy to be the one who steals from them.
Yeah.
But yeah. So why do you think the cathedral's burning right now?
I think it's been burning for a while, but it's like I wish I could remember who. I was thinking about this on the drive over here. I wish I could remember who made this point. It was on one of the podcasts. So if anybody heard the same podcast, mention in the chat. But basically, it was a guy who had done professional stunt driver training and was talking about just like what you learn being a professional stunt driver and how to do all these cool tricks and whatever. And he said one of the main things they teach you is like when you're losing control, it's like everything that you're supposed to do is the opposite of what feels intuitive. Same idea as hitting black ice or something like that. And he said essentially he was relaying it back to what we're watching now. And the idea is what they're doing is the equivalent of hitting a patch of ice and then yanking the wheel so hard you pull it off the car. And so I think what we're watching is them, spinning and heading towards a ditch. And, they haven't hit the ditch yet. But I mean, it's like all this, they've got warehouses full of the vaccines that people don't want. There's this whole thing about, I don't know, like all these state governments are saying all of our employees, are going to get the vax or, wear a mask and get fired and all this stuff. And it's like they're exerting control within every little sphere that they can touch. But it's like the spheres that they have influence over, I think are getting less and less. And that's extremely frustrating for them because they're used to having that level of control. And they're not used to a critical mass of people telling them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
And the more we can grow that critical mass, the better.
Yeah. 100% agreed. I mean, I think the inflation's out of control.
Yeah.
And I mean, like some of it when I look at it, I sometimes have trouble believing that they're losing control because I think they would be smarter than this.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, I mean, I think a lot of it's like kind of the incentives of the system as it's developed. So it's like this idea of, so last, beginning of 2020, right before they really started the COVID money printing, like everybody on Bitcoin Twitter, had a sense, it's like, short to maybe medium term, but probably short term, there's going to be another big, 2009 style, print a bunch of money, borrow a bunch, infrastructure deal, whatever, all this bullshit they come up with. And there were, but obviously most people were not clued into that. Most people, just thought, oh, it's another good bull run. But I remember I was going to go with that, but they, I don't remember. I lost it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to, promote this narrative that things are good financially. Yeah. And one of the things when Trump was president, one of the things that really upset me was when people said that this is the strongest economy, that we've seen.
Oh yeah.
That just blew my mind because when you have almost half or over half the country that doesn't have $400 in savings for an unexpected, event, that's in my opinion not a strong economy. It's not entirely. And I was looking at housing increase prices, and they've been pretty consistent. And they kind of jumped in 2021, but housing has almost doubled in 5 years. And most of the time that was increasing was under Trump's presidency.
Yeah,
and that's in Tucson specifically.
Yeah.
And there's, to be fair, there's a lot of other factors that could go into that, but the increased cost of housing is not due to just a supply shock, in my opinion, like they're saying.
Yeah. Now I remember what I was going to say earlier. So they did all that money printing, they brought all that money, and it's like that kind of stuff was going to happen no matter what. Like they probably, I mean, this is probably maybe a little bit too far, but they, even if we had a Ron Paul type president, they probably would have found a way to still do all that bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter who's there, who's not there, whatever. It's like we just need to buy Bitcoin and the state, keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these 3-letter agencies are just so powerful. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any way to oversee it. Like even if you had Ron Paul, like if Ron Paul became president, how would he end the Fed realistically? Like how would he go about that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And what would he replace it with ultimately?
I mean, yeah, hopefully nothing. But and it's like all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of our big, Bitcoiner critique of libertarians, LARPertarians is they still have some level of hope that the system can be redeemed and that it can be, adapted and and all that. And it's like, I don't see any evidence for that. Like like we've talked about in a couple episodes, I think we build a parallel system, we build a parallel society, and whoever whoever is worthy will opt into it and everyone else won't. And it is what it is. But, and just worthy in the sense of having principles and not wanting to control other people and, not being an authoritarian.
Yeah. I mean, I think the value of like the libertarian ideals and politics specifically is that agenda. What's up, Brave Hoddle? Good to see you in here. Missed you at the meetups. I think the value of it is it helps grow the narrative and message that these things are corrupt. And I think that's something that Ron Paul did that was really powerful. He used his platform not really to do anything meaningful legislatively, but he spread a message
and woke people up.
Yeah, he woke a lot of people up, and I find a ton of entertainment out of him going after the Bernanke. So he provided me some entertainment on days when I'm bored. But then another thing that libertarian politics does, is on top of promoting this message, is that it kind of slows things down. And I think gives us a little bit of time to form these parallel economies before, everybody gets gulagged. So
yeah,
I see some value to it, but that's about it.
Yeah. When I don't, and this isn't from a, overly optimistic or anything, but I don't see gulags as like a viable outcome in the US, and not, and not like a, I don't mean that in a, so chill out, everybody don't worry about it kind of thing, but just the mechanics around that much control over that big of a physical area and that many people, because as we've seen, 70-80% of the population is going to go along with anything, no matter what. And it just, these are the people that, brag on social media about their vaccine. These are the people that wear a mask outside. These are the people that, think that politics is the answer, all that kind of, those people are the mob. They would have been, Stasi informants in East Germany. They would have been Nazi sympathizers in Germany and in regular Germany in the 30s and 40s. Like they would have, they would have gone along with any dictator. It's the population that, is either unwilling or unable to critically interact with the world around them. And so they just go with the flow. And that's, I don't know, that part just kind of is what it is. And so I think it's up to us to, to determine the direction the society goes. And then they'll just kind of fit in like they always do. They'll find a job, they'll find a way, hopefully to be valuable in one way or the other. And, they'll fit in and hopefully not cause too much trouble. But it's this idea that we need to be terribly concerned about that giant part of the population. I don't see it. To me, they're completely irrelevant and, something to be just kind of managed around here and there. But Brave Hoddle says UBI has started with the child tax credit for those under 18. And it's a monthly income.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a hard gulag. We're already seeing kind of this digital gulag that people are thrown into. If they don't, like, we're going to get thrown in there inevitably on this show. Like, I almost guarantee it. I'm surprised we've lasted how long we have on this, because we were talking about ivermectin last week, and we hit the buzzwords that are not okay with the social media platforms, but and that has a lot of power, and I think they're increasing it. So like you won't be in a prison, but they're looking to roll out a Fed coin. And when they can tie that to, whether you've been vaccinated or if you've been, good. And Jen Psaki was talking about wanting to deplatform people off of all social media platforms if you
get booted from one.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to implement, kind of like what you were saying. But I think the type of gulag we're talking about is a little bit different than going to Siberia or whatever.
And it's like a huge thing in our favor is it only takes a couple of countries telling the IMF to get fucked and we're good to go. That's just where we move to.
Yeah.
And it's like, if that, I mean, that's, I hope that's in the near future, but it's probably not. That's probably more of a medium term kind of thing. But I mean, that's when, we get our passports from Katie and we're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hopeful that happens for sure. I mean, one thing, I was really hopeful about El Salvador. And then they started, their president started pushing the vaccine and might be in lockstep with that. They might launch their own digital currency too, which I think is like really, really backwards and not helpful. So, but then again, it's not my country, but I just feel, pessimistic when all of these countries are doing it in lockstep. And yeah, it might take a little while. There could be some countries out there that are hodling really hard and we just don't know about it.
Yeah. And a lot of people shit on the US, like continental US, like especially like states like Arizona, Missouri, I don't know, Alaska's another good one, like South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, kind of Texas, not really. But like these places that are
Montana,
like, yeah, Montana's a good one. Like any, like those kind of places that have those are like, being in the right county in one of those states is, in my opinion, better than almost any country on the face of the earth as far as general freedom, like especially a state like Arizona, where, because to me, it's not about finding a good government. There is no good government. It's about finding the one that provides the least things that you need to route around. So self-defense is a tangible example. I was up in Pacific Northwest before, and it's like up there, even if you have a concealed carry, you can get arrested for bending over in a grocery store to pick something up if your gun shows. You can get arrested for that, thrown in a fucking cage, even if you have a concealed carry permit. And it's like, there's just stuff like that it's like, okay, well, fuck that state, but I can go to Arizona, which has much, much more reasonable self-defense laws, and
very
you can
nice
actually defend yourself. And so it's like, those are the kinds of things that I think about, like that. Like Florida is another good one. Like they did very well with COVID, as far as basically saying, fuck that noise from, I don't know, last like May on or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's like finding a good county in one of those, like really solid. And I personally, I think self-defense laws are way more important than tax laws. But that's just my opinion.
Use self-defense from tax laws.
Yeah. I mean, and generally they go hand in hand. It's like, places like New Jersey have some of the worst self-defense laws on planet Earth, and they also have some of the worst taxes. So.
Good to see you on here, young Lurk.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us tonight. The CBDCs will take away the freedom harder than Eric Voorhees bitching about Bitcoin maxis. Yeah?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, CBDCs are not good. I mean, I don't think they're nearly as much of a threat for us. And, there's that quote from Powell talking about how, Bitcoin doesn't have a use case in the world of central bank digital currencies or something like that. And it's like, fuck are you talking about? Like, oh, this easily censorable, easily manipulatable thing with infinite supply is going to be a threat to, Bitcoin. It's like,
do you think he knows what he's talking about, or do you think he's completely clueless?
So I think up until relatively recently, I would have erred on the side of them being absolutely like intelligent psychopaths that know what they're doing. But the more, I don't know, it's like I just see so much stuff out of them that I can't explain by anything other than incompetence. And so I'm like certainly moving away from that position towards them really actually being asleep at the, and by recently, I would say, my time frame for that would be maybe a year and a half ago or something like that. So I'd say over the last, since COVID especially started, seen more and more evidence of them being horrifically incompetent, just absolute morons, who are totally they're just drunk on power and completely disconnected from reality.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
But I do think there's definitely very clued in, very intelligent people within the intelligence community that know, like we've mentioned before, like they have spent several decades successfully fighting off every single threat to their power. And so the idea that they're just going to roll over for Bitcoin is hilarious. Like I think they're going to put up a very good fight, and they haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're smart enough to know they can't kill Bitcoin, but they can acquire as much Bitcoin, the unit, the money, for themselves and for their people from the people that are subversive, or whatever word you want to use.
So what would it take? Like, would they be infiltrating Bitcoin companies and like really making people question the legitimacy or credibility of like their wallets, or what do you think that would look like?
I mean, there. I don't know if I want to mention it, but I'm thinking of like one company specifically that has a business model that if I was a spook designing a business, that's what fuck it, Casa. I mean that like 2 of 3 multi-sig, their intro product, 2 of 3 multi-sig, where they have one key and the other key is on a closed source app, and you can substitute it for a hardware wallet. You can do all this other stuff, but the default is to have a key in their possession and a key in in the closed source app on your phone that, and so it's like, if I meet somebody who's a real Casa diehard, I say, prove to me that key's never been sent back to Casa. You can't, it's a closed source app. You don't know what it's doing. You don't know what it's sending. Like that stuff is just not okay. But
interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think they were talking about this on Rabbit Hole Recap of as far as it's a major liability to the company to have the keys like that.
Yeah.
And whether they've been infiltrated by spooks or not, I mean, it makes them likely to.
Mm-hmm. So and it's like even if it's not like these kinds of services, you're doxing your entire balance and transaction history to them. Like if you use, there's all different, any of these kind of managed services, not just Casa, but like they have, just by definition, like they have your, but it's the same thing if you use like the default for, whatever your hardware wallet you like, and you're using their node and all that kind of stuff, same thing. They're getting your balance and your transaction history. And, that alone is such a huge risk. And it's like with so much, wonderful open source stuff out there that you can actually run and control your own, and that's free. And to me, closed source anything in Bitcoin is unconscionable. And then closed source even remotely related to anything that's even kind of related to private keys is a subset of that's particularly unconscionable.
Makes sense. All right. Brave Huddle, perfect timing for a question. What do you guys expect to happen this fall with the spread of COVID variants and government response? Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if they try more lockdowns. Delta, or maybe it'll be Echo by then, or Foxtrot, or Platinum Extra Premium variant, or whatever they decide to call the next one.
Yeah. Military alphabet variants.
This is like a total side note, but something that's really fun is to be just blatantly disrespectful to the people that take this serious. I got a lot more practice with this when I was up in the Pacific Northwest before I came down to Arizona. But, just be like, somebody's like, oh, where's your mask? But like, no, I don't do that shit. Just like some like kind of snarky little, like I went into a coffee shop back in May in Arizona when there were still a couple of places, like there's just random places that would actually care. He was like, sir, where's your mask? I was like, no, fuck that. And he was like, well, I can't serve you if you don't have a mask. I was like, all right, bye. Like it's fucking Starbucks across the street. That, I don't know, I don't know how productive that actually is, but it's a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be fun. Well, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm not miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a good time. Bitcoin meetups in Tucson are going to happen unless, I get imprisoned, and then, hopefully somebody else takes up the mantle and holds them. But there's some, businesses that I'm pretty excited about, in Tucson specifically, that will not lock down, and they did not lock down this last time. They did not enforce restrictions. So I think what's going to ultimately happen, there's going to be a polarization. People that don't like lockdowns and don't like masks will patron those businesses exclusively. The totalitarians will refuse to go there and go to their places. There's unfortunately a few businesses that I will have to go to where I will be forced to wear a mask when that inevitably happens. And so I'm going to buy a World War II gas mask to make it really obnoxious and ridiculous. And maybe I'll get a bubble suit.
Yeah.
I'll just do like the most ridiculous thing possible, just to, I feel like making it like look absurd.
Or like a gas mask, but with the mouth part cut off so that they can see your nose and it's like, no, I'm wearing a mask.
I mean, there's just so many funny ones that people did. There was at the Guns and Bitcoin conference, there was a girl that had like a mesh mask that you could just, breathe through. Yeah. I mean, not that like a lot of the masks that people were using aren't very effective, like the surgeon masks and whatever, but
yeah. I'm pretty optimistic the masks won't come back to Arizona. If they do, though, I'll just do a Costco run and show up at a park with, burgers and hot dogs and beer, and that can be we can do our meetup that way.
Yeah. Wait, I am determined to allow,
but only shared drinks allowed. No personal drinks.
I am determined to not, be affected in the same way that I allowed myself to be the last time.
I got COVID maybe 4 months ago, something like that, 4 or 5 months ago. And somebody was asking me how I got it. And I was like, oh, I went to a party with like 40 people there. And, all the appetizers were finger food and everybody was sharing drinks. And I was like, I obviously never got a test because fuck government lists, but like 70% of the people that went, popped positive and got their test done and everything. And so I was telling somebody like, oh, I bet you wish you wouldn't have gone. I was like, what? No, it's a fun party. I'd go again. It was great.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like what I want to really do is make a concerted effort to support businesses and organizations that are not going to bend the knee, because they get put in the crossfire pretty bad. Like the Pima County Health Department was awful with what they did to people. They essentially like they kind of had their hands tied by the governor because he was pretty lax and tied their hands on purpose to not allow them to be total tyrants. But they would do things like leak businesses that weren't complying with their suggestions, and then the mob would go after them and like have death threats against the employees and find out who their kids are. There's a coffee shop called Viva Coffee in Tucson that experienced this, and it was awful. And so I want to support businesses like that.
Where's Viva at?
It's out near like Rita Ranch. It's way out in the middle of nowhere.
Do my best to stop by there.
Yeah, there's business. Arizona Beer House is a good one. Those guys are solid, and I'm trying to.
That's over on Broadway, the east side.
Yeah.
I know where that is.
They have food trucks there. It's a great spot for Bitcoin meetups. Nice. It has beer, it has food. The plebs can go, not get hassled. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the city government in Tucson wanted to be California this last time and had their hands tied by the government. But I mean, you're probably going to see similar stuff where, the blue states go crazy and lock down, and the red states are a little bit more lax. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah. That's what I'm pretty sold on Arizona long term, but I do need to get out of Pima County specifically sooner rather than later. Pima is not a great county.
No. Cochise isn't that bad.
Yeah, Cochise is not bad.
There's some good people out there.
Graham, there's another one out. So Graham is where Safford is. Like there's another county out there. I can't remember blanking on the name of it, but it's the smallest county in Arizona. It's like 8,400 people. That's another one that looks good.
I got invited to live on a Citadel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like north of Safford, so it was in the middle of nowhere. And then kind of maybe out near Globe area, which actually wouldn't be that bad of an area to live.
Globe's pretty nice. That area, yeah, because that's not terribly far from Phoenix or Tucson. But yeah, I'm trying to remember which case. I don't remember which county Globe is in. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't call Globe nice, but the
or like the area around it.
There's trees.
Yeah,
it's not hot.
It's remote. That's what I'm. Yeah,
some great fishing on the Black River. If you ever get the chance to go out to the Black River, that's a great spot to go fishing. But yeah, I mean, the Citadels are going to happen. I'm, considering going out to that one, but I'm also considering building my own of sorts because I have a pretty good spot. I'm going to be going out to in the boonies, still in Pima County, unfortunately, but yeah.
Nice. And speaking of Southern Arizona, shout out to our sponsor, Dirtbags Bar in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah. Best place to meet your future ex-wife.
That's right. Dirtbags Bar.
Let us know if you're a fan of dirtbags in the chat.
Yep. And if any of you successfully find your future ex-wife, you can get 20% off a premium Toxic Airwaves subscription. And you may say that subscription is free. Why would I want 20% off? And I would say that's a good point.
Yeah. We got Kiwi Huddle in the chat.
All right. What's Kiwi got to say?
Or not in the chat, in the spaces. You got anything for us, Kiwi? All right. Hop in whenever you feel like it.
That crazy New Zealander.
Oh, do you know Kiwi?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Man, I feel bad for people in New Zealand, Australia right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that gets me concerned is I see what's happening in France and, some of these other countries. I can't help but think it's kind of inevitable for the United States, but who knows?
Yeah, I think the US being a lot bigger is a massive advantage, and like just being so geographically diverse. So Canada is obviously massive, geography wise, but what is it? Like a giant percent of the population lives in Vancouver and Ontario area, and then not much else. I think it's like 85% of the population lives within like 100 miles of the US border, things like that. And they're just totally cucked on top of it, like they're whatever problems we have with the huge percent of the population being cucked are significantly worse in Canada.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. Like China is a huge country and is geographically diverse and culturally diverse.
That's true.
I guess they've had a lot more time.
Yeah, and they started with Mao in the 50s. Yeah.
Man, logical logistics is in the spaces.
Nice.
It's always got good stuff for us. But yeah, there's some other good ways to opt out.
I think in my opinion, wealth is the biggest one. So a person needs ideally their income and their wealth protected from the state, but at least one or the other. And that's, having work that is remote and resistant to censorship. To me, like that has to be the top priority, is figuring out how to build that out and develop that, because there's a million different ways to go about that. But I think that gives a person a lot of mobility and a lot of protection from, because the easiest way to get, quote unquote canceled is fired from your job. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you're either unfireable or don't need your job, then that's a huge win in your favor. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing. And then there's, like the stuff around, guns, printing guns, all that, obviously that as well, using encryption, using technology that's available. But like I think just generally embracing this idea that technology is what guarantees rights. And so we use Bitcoin as a technology to guarantee our right to sovereignty over our wealth. Like we use encryption to guarantee our right to privacy. We use guns to guarantee our right to self-defense. We use 3D printed guns to guarantee our right to be able to defend ourselves. It's like all that stuff is independent of what a bunch of corrupt assholes write down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, makes sense. I think like one thing that I've been looking at that I think is incredibly important is building a strong network of individuals. Yeah. And I think that's oftentimes Kelly's requesting more toxicity. I don't know. We've been pretty toxic. We could shit on Voorhees again.
Yeah. I think, well, and that's something that I bought probably 7 or 8 plane tickets in 2020, just going to different stuff, and it was all going to see Bitcoiners, things like that. And that, I mean, that's just what I do for fun. Like that's just the most enjoyable thing, going to BitBlock Boom, going on a ski trip with Bitcoiners, all this different kinds of stuff like that. But also that's building the network. Like that's how I figure out who I want to be building stuff with in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, is by that kind of filtering mechanism. And that, it's like that kind of network, I think, is probably the only thing more valuable than Bitcoin, because it's like you could lose all your Bitcoin and, to have it taken by the state or whatever. And if you have that network, you can build back and get, do some pretty cool shit.
Yeah. I mean,
ideally have both, obviously, but
like we're looking at the fragility of the monetary system.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also have to consider the fragility of the infrastructure that is around us. I think food and water are highly underrated in one of these situations.
Yeah.
I think if there was ever a time to be a prepper, it's right now. Bullets, food, and water are great things to have in addition to Bitcoin and encryption. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we were looking at that. Very good question.
Thank you for bringing this up, Lurk. Okay, what do you think about Cali, Colorado, etc., not allowing gaming desktop shipped to the state? I've got 2 thoughts on it. Part of it is about the electricity. We recently saw in California that, the power company was, I think it was PG&E, was requesting that people change their Tesla charging habits because it was overloading the grid. So part of me thinks this isn't as much about energy usage as it is about protecting Silicon Valley, because there's a major push to go to cloud-based gaming right now. And this might be, getting out there a bit and might be a little bit ridiculous, but Netflix is looking to soon launch cloud-based gaming. And I think that model, I had Matt Hill from Start9 on my podcast a while ago, and one of the things he was talking about was, this upcoming battle between local computing and cloud computing, really coming to a head. And I think that kind of informs my opinion on that. So that was the first thing that came into my head when I saw that, but it might be about the energy too.
Mm-hmm. And that's an attack vector they could do with ASICs that would not be terribly different. They could shut down basically all the traditional channels without too much difficulty. There'd still be all the back channels and everything like that, obviously, and we would still be able to source them, no problem. Or no, I wouldn't say no problem, but we would still be able to source them. But that would definitely add cost and complexity for sure.
One thing that's kind of weird about it, though, is how multiple states have hopped on that at the same time. And it wasn't just California. It seems like a very California thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess we'll have to go chill Arizona at some more. You can have your gaming desktops in Arizona. Whenever they're going to go after other. But, to be realistic, like if they actually, have any weight behind this agenda of like Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Gaming uses up so much energy. as well and provides less utility to the world, in my opinion. I'm not anti-gaming, but I think Bitcoin is far more important than video games.
Kiwi was messaging me a question, and I told him to jump on Spaces and rant about it. So,
Kiwi, I've invited you to speak like 6 times. Logical logistics, you got anything for us?
No, nothing about this. It's just one of those things where it's like, you hear about it and you're like, what? There's no good reason that comes to mind. It's just like, what? Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like the amount of power that these gaming desktops are using is a rounding error on a rounding error, which tells you it's obviously about control. It's not about actually doing anything, to be green or whatever bullshit they come up with.
Yeah. It'll be interesting if they start mandating certain types of air conditioners or stuff like that.
And that's why, like, off-grid, building off-grid is definitely my plan. Like, I want...
Me too.
I fucking hate that they're like, hey, kids, go outside with the homeless and the people shitting in the streets. Get off your computers. You don't need these fancy techs. Go outside.
Yeah.
Go find a needle.
Yeah.
I did see a needle recently in my neighborhood. That was kind of exciting. But
yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to leave it.
I mean, that's a really... It's all right, man. No judgment here. Just pick it up next time. Yeah, that's another point. It's just like these communities are so unsafe.
Yeah.
In those areas.
I mean, that's what this has been public, I've told everybody, like, I was living in downtown Portland, summer of 2020,
Portland,
when all that COVID shit hit. And it was, obviously the city had always been completely overrun by communists, but it went from this, like, cute, fun little thing to observe, just like, oh, look what the morons are up to lately, to like, oh, they might break my window in, huh? Like, and it's like, obviously I've got guns, but a state like Oregon does not value self-defense very well.
No.
And it's like, you can't be in a state like that when that shit's happening. You need to be in a place like Arizona where, you can defend yourself.
Hey, yeah, actually.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Sorry, my connection's really bad. Arizona is like, we're so backwards sometimes, but holy fuck, do we look smart compared to California right now? Like, we're the state where we didn't acknowledge Martin Luther King Day as a federal holiday, so the NFL threatened to remove the Super Bowl. We're also the state that had SB 1070, which then was ruled unconstitutional, and then Sheriff Jost was like, nah, fuck it, I'm the Constitution. And then that was still the directive in the state. And like, it's wild. Like, we're fucking backwards sometimes, but we will never, I don't think we're ever going to tell people like that they have to limit their processing power on their computers.
No.
Yeah. Well, I keep going back to self-defense, but it's just like a whole, I don't know, like learning about, I don't know, that's just something that I geek out on just a little bit, is learning the laws in different areas and how different states treat it. And it's like the freedoms that a person has in Arizona versus even a place like Texas is just unreal. It's incomparably better in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I moved from Cook County, Illinois, and one of the first things I noticed that I could walk around and feel like I was breathing fresh air.
Yeah.
It's like I was 18 when I first started living in Tucson and bought my first gun, which I never even thought was a possibility in the Chicago area. And I mean, I think that's a huge deal. I mean, it's just insane that if you protect yourself, that you could be put in prison. And there was that guy in Portland that pulled the gun after his car was getting attacked by Antifa people in Salem, Oregon. And the police ended up arresting him. Yeah. And Honestly, they might have done it for his own safety, but regardless, I mean, it's just like the attitude is just so different.
Whereas there was I think it was maybe a couple of weeks ago, there was like at a drive-through, a homeless guy goes up, opens the door, has a knife, give me your thing or whatever. The guy driving the car was armed, shot it. I think he shot him once in the arm and then missed. And the homeless guy took off and ran and, called the cops and said, "Hey, I got shot here, blah, blah, blah." But that person had, they drove away, made sure they were safe. And then they called the cops, told them what happened. And it's like the person who shot him didn't even, like, they got questioned a little bit, but it was all on, security cameras in the drive-through. So the cops were like, "Okay, he tried to steal your car. You shot him. Yeah, sounds good. Have a nice day. Go home. Don't worry about it." And whereas so many other states, like that person would have at least spent a night in jail minimum. Like in Oregon, or in Washington, that person would have spent a night in jail at least. Because they're like, "Oh, we're just sorting it out," things like that. Where places like Arizona, it's like, no, if you try to take someone's car, you're probably going to get shot. And and Arizona even has a law where, like, if you're authorized to shoot once, you're basically authorized to shoot until the threat is neutralized. And so, like, there's just, it puts so much, not that it puts power back in the person's hands, but it takes away a lot of the ways that the state typically fucks people on things like this, which is about all we can hope for with the government, is just a reduction in how much they fuck with us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to just to own guns. And for that to be an important thing, because it makes the cops think twice about swatting you,
Yeah.
versus like Canada, where they're just running into people's houses and throwing them out because he had too many people together at a party or something like that.
Yeah.
And
it's like normalizing concealed carry, so that people that are going around mugging people, they're saying like, I mean, look at me, like I don't look like some Marine Corps veteran, anything like that, but I carry them pretty much everywhere I go. And there's a lot of people that I wear Chaco sandals, I'm not Mr. Bubba Redneck or anything like that, but it's like I carry everywhere I go.
Chacos are cool.
And yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a ride or die. I had one pair that lasted over a decade.
Shitcoiners wear TiVos.
That's right. But yeah, but just like normalizing that, and normalizing that, armed robbery, or any kind of robbery, theft, whatever, can very likely get you killed, I think is a fantastic societal development.
Yeah.
But actually, one story, this some people might like this. So I had a buddy when I lived here before. He always carried, and he was driving home one day, and this car made like 4 turns with him going into his neighborhood. He's like, "What the fuck's going on?" So the car's following him, and by the time he realized it, he was already almost at his house. And so he was like, "Oh fuck, what do I do?" Whatever. So he like pulled into his driveway. This van stops at the end of his driveway. Some guy gets out with a knife, like wraps it on his window, "Give me your wallet," all that kind of stuff. And he, he's carrying. And so he drew his gun, pointed at him, and told him to get the fuck off his property. And the guy like sees the gun, takes off, gets in the van, drives off. So he calls the cops. Detective comes over, he's asking him all these questions. What happened? Blah, 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 blah. Just asking him a whole bunch of questions. And the cop has this tape recorder thing, and he says, "Well, is there anything else you need to tell me?" And my buddy goes, "Nope, that's about it." And the cop hits stop and goes, "Personally, I'd have shot the motherfucker right in the face." That's what the detective tells him.
I mean, what type of a moron do you have to be to try and rob somebody with a knife in Arizona?
Yeah, well, the guy robbing had the knife. And
I know.
My buddy. Oh yeah.
It's like,
well, so they do that because if you do get arrested, it's a way lower prison sentence. So like if you rob somebody with a knife, it's a much lower prison sentence than it is with a gun.
That makes sense.
So that's to the extent that these people have logic. But yeah, he was like, hit stop. Yeah, personally, I'd have shot the motherfucker right in the face. Is what the detective told him.
Gosh. Yeah, cops out here can be funny sometimes. I think like in Tucson, they're pretty useless. Yeah. But I think this like idea, like a lot of people have this idea that the cops are there to protect you. And I think that's so, unfair and inaccurate. Like, you're there to protect you. That's your responsibility, to protect you and your family. And the cops are there essentially to enforce the rules of the state, pretty much.
And if you're not an anarchist already, look up a book called The Most Dangerous Superstition. Larkin Rose is, I believe he lives in Arizona. But that book, if you're already an anarchist, then don't worry about it. You already get it. But that book totally dismantles the idea of the legitimacy of state authority and the legitimacy of, like cops having different rules than you and all, because it's not a long book, 150 pages maybe. But yeah, Most Dangerous Superstition.
Did you read the anarchist, the Michael Malice's new book?
I'm about 70% through.
Is it pretty good?
Yeah. Some of it's a lot more academic than what I'm interested in, but they've got he's got the Lysander Spooner essay in there that's got the classic quote of, I'm blanking on it, but basically the idea is that the Constitution has never, I mean, this is an essay that was written in 1870 and talking about how completely neutered and worthless the Constitution is, well over 100 years ago. And so just kind of, and there's a lot of people that think this, we're in a constitutional crisis, or the media's gotten out of control, the left has gotten, the progressive have gotten out of control. And it's like, no, they got out of control in 1913 and a lot before, but really in 1913 is where they really got control. And it's like, what we're seeing now is just the latest kind of iteration of that. Like, to me, there's been no new developments in decades. I don't think. I mean, there's a Supreme Court case over 100 years ago that said a farmer can't feed his own crops to his own animals because that violates interstate commerce. I mean, it's like, this thing has been totally off the rails and fucked for a very long time. If it was ever,
is that still a thing? Like, a farmer can't feed their own animals with their own?
No, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's just like I forget the exact context of it, but I mean,
was 1913 Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah, that was the income tax in the Federal Reserve.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the Federal
same
Reserve.
Year.
The creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, that was when they started the income tax, which only affected the top 0.00 whatever percent, and then instituted the Federal Reserve.
I really think it's very comical when people say that Reagan was when things started going wrong in the country with his tax cuts for the rich.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the solution, is you tax the rich more.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah. That's people that say that stuff, just they don't understand math.
Maybe I should do that sometime. We could do that where I could be the leftist arguing. I
always tell those people, it's like, okay, you can nationalize the top 1% and it's a rounding error. What do you do next? They're like, well, the Jeff Bezos is evil. It's like, fuck yourself. I don't have time for morons.
Yeah. I will say, what Jeff Bezos has accomplished in his lifetime has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a big, big business. It's, Amazon Web Services is, like it or hate it, a very impressive bit. I mean, that's,
yeah. I think it's, what they're doing is kind of destructive, but it's all just a symptom of the broken system.
Like, how hilarious would it be? So basically all of Ethereum runs on AWS, and supposedly Amazon's getting into this cryptocurrency stuff. And I even saw speculation that they were going to develop their own currency or something like that. I think it would be hilarious if there was some way that Amazon came out with a policy that they were like anti-Ethereum and stuff like that. And they're like, yep, we don't, because the realistic way that it could happen is if the government, who gives them billions and billions and billions of dollars, said, we don't like cryptocurrency, we need you to crack down, and then they're faced with a choice of, do we side with the people that give us billions and billions of dollars, or do we side with the people that give us a rounding error on a rounding error? It's like, no, that's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't know, Ethereum would die I mean, that's to me, that's one of the bigger threats to Ethereum is Amazon shutting them off, because it's like they don't. I mean, these people don't actually know how to build. Like, they don't know how to. They know how to launch web apps on AWS. They don't know. They don't know how to actually build and real, highly highly robust stuff. But,
Yeah, Dorsey's troll on Ethereum was pretty good. What's METH?
I think it's just a play on meth, the drug.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
They're all a bunch of meth heads.
Yeah.
I don't know. They act like it.
I mean, I think a lot of people.
It's pretty skinny. Could be.
I think a lot of people. There's some of the people that I've met recently that have been into ETH just haven't done enough work yet, and they're well on their way. But I think a lot of them are just too far gone.
I've heard so many stories about like people, go on Clubhouse, or Spaces or whatever, and just join Ethereum rooms and tell them very basic things. Like, I can't remember who it was, but somebody joined this Ethereum room and asked somebody about the pre-mine, and like none of the people on the stage knew that Ethereum had a pre-mine. It was like these people that are supposedly, they're hosting a room to talk about Ethereum and how it's amazing and all this stuff. And this guy, he just joins and goes, so how do you justify the 70% pre-mine? The guy's like, oh, no, I don't think that's true. No, Ethereum didn't have a pre-mine. It's a common misconception. He sounded like he was very sure of himself. And it's like, oh my God, these people are so fucking ignorant.
Yeah.
But,
well, and even if they do know about it, it's not a concern.
Yeah.
They justify it as like, oh, well, the founders do deserve to have a large portion, 60, 70% of the total supply, because they've created this new revolution and they should get rich off of it.
And it's complete coincidence that those same people want to move to proof of stake.
Yeah.
Totally unrelated.
Yeah.
Pay no attention.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
That's a great point. Yeah, I thought the troll was pretty funny. I don't really. Yeah. Ethiopia, that took me down a wormhole. Most of the time when I log onto Twitter, and I see these things going around, and I see like 10 posts about the same thing, I have to play catch up, to figure out what's going on, and I've stopped doing that as much. So instead, I did a bunch of research of what's going on in Ethiopia right now. It sounds pretty crazy.
Pretty authoritarian, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got this like crazy Marxist faction that is kind of launching a civil war against the government, because they were supposed to have elections in 2020 that they canceled because they said COVID, they can have elections during COVID, and this Marxist faction, I think in northern Ethiopia, decided to hold their own elections. Which they won with like 90%, of course, and it's just kind of fractured. But I mean, it's all over the place. And then you got Charles Hoskinson, and they're doing all sorts of shady, awful stuff. This is the thing that people have to know about Cardano. Like, it's more than just a shit coin. Like, it's an evil project that's trying to do more than put shoes on a blockchain, which is really stupid. They're trying to implement a social credit score in Ethiopia. When you hear that a blockchain company is partnering with the government, that should raise some major red flags. And yeah, it's just insane.
And this is who Lex Friedman spent 5 hours with.
Yeah.
5 hours.
And Charles on that one said that he didn't understand what the use case was for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It just shows how much of an idiot that guy is.
Yeah. Up until Lex started talking about Bitcoin, like, cause I'd heard him on Rogan, different things. And I was like, what am I missing about this guy? Like, cause it's like, I knew he had a big following, and I'd hear a few episodes. Like, he had Michael Malice on. That was a reasonably good episode, things like that. And so I'm like trying to figure out, like, why did people and then, like, what am I missing about this guy? Because I didn't really care for him at all. And then he started talking about Bitcoin. I was like, oh no, he's just a moron. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Like, this guy just has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I was hopping on the hate train for a while, and then I learned he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I thought that was pretty cool.
And like a legit black belt too.
Yeah, that gives him some credibility. But yeah, and some people just need to stay in their lane.
Yeah.
If they don't know anything about a topic, then like Elon Musk, you might know some things about rockets, or batteries or whatever, but you don't know shit about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something, I guess we didn't talk about the B word. Did you watch the B word at all?
No, I didn't watch any of it, but I
Good choice.
I joined Stefan Livera hosted a Spaces kind of summary recap kind of thing that was pretty good. That was interesting.
Yeah. So Elon did mention that he asked whether or not these Bitcoin wallets would need a money transmitter license, which I actually thought was kind of concerning.
Yeah. It's
especially with what the EU is trying to implement right now.
Oh yeah, they're trying to like basically get rid of quote unquote self-hosted wallet. Is that what they're calling it? Which is just means
well, they said anonymous wallets.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you can make a Bitcoin wallet. You just have to register all your addresses. Counterpoint, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, the EU is such a joke right now.
And that's one thing.
It's always been a joke.
I really liked the Samurai Guys' response to that because somebody asked them something about how you guys implement this, and like, how will we implement it? By staying out of the EU. Like, no, we're not fucking doing any of this bullshit. And they're just talking about, they're like, yeah, when this goes into effect, none of our developers will be in a European country. I can tell you that much is basically what they said. I was like, that's to me, like that's the proper way to deal with this kind of stuff is to route around it and be like, yeah. God, I feel if any of you guys live in Europe, I apologize. I mean, I apologize. I just feel bad. It seems like just doesn't seem like there's very many good spots over there.
We'll welcome you to Arizona.
Yeah, that's right. Come out to the desert.
As long as you're not a Marxist.
I'll pick you up at the airport and hand you a handgun.
I'll take you out shooting.
Oh yeah, we should probably practice first. That's a good point.
That's one of my favorite things to do is take
detail.
take political refugees out shooting for the first time.
Yeah.
I had some friends from Mexico come up and took them out shooting, and it was quite a lot of fun.
I posted that picture of that shotgun I got on Saturday. So I got a little like 14-inch barrel, tiny little shotgun, on Saturday at the gun show here. And so, of course, the one, presumably either from Europe or California or something like that, commented and said, well, why do you feel like you need that as an insecurity or something like that? And I just put, because I want it. Go fuck yourself. And then he was like, oh, so you probably just want to participate in America's national sport, which is school shootings or something like that. I'm like, God, like these people, they don't have minds. That's the main thing. They don't have minds. These are people working off of a script, executing a program. Just, I don't know, NPCs to the core.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's genuinely difficult to wrap your mind around it if you've never been around it. And it's definitely like a shock to the system. I kind of want to take Jake Hanrahan out shooting, but it's been kind of funny.
Who's that?
He has a podcast called Popular Front, or like a media platform.
Oh yeah, he
does some pretty good war reporting.
Did he interview
J-Star?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I know that. The British guy, right? Yeah.
Thought it was a good documentary, but
Yeah.
I thought Jake's takes on guns was pretty bad. He got a lot of heat at the Guns and Bitcoin conference.
Oh, was he actually there?
No. They just they just mentioned
Gotcha.
the video.
Gotcha.
But I can't remember. It might have been Cody Wilson. Who trashed him a bit. But yeah, maybe we should come up with like a Arizona guide to, deprogramming guide.
Yeah.
Like, step 1, go shooting with Skeef and Alex.
That's right.
Step 2, come to the Bitcoin meetup.
Yeah. Step 3, come back to the Bitcoin meetup. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Step 4, stop caring about politics.
Yeah.
What do you think about the idea of being post-political?
Oh, I think it's just totally essential. I mean, I just don't see any. And like I said, I've mentioned before, I was a constitutional libertarian for quite a while. I voted for libertarians, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, and then I found Bitcoin and I was like, oh, so all this stuff I was trying to do, I was going about it in a completely neutered and worthless way. And now I actually have a tool to accomplish it. Oh, this is much better. And to me, like when I meet Bitcoiners who are obsessed with politics and voting and talking about, oh, you know, we need to get this guy in, that guy out, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, do you not understand Bitcoin, or do we have just completely different worldviews? Like, what's going on? Because to me, the more I learn about Bitcoin, the less I care about what exactly the state's up to, because I know that its days are numbered and that its ability to accumulate resources is trending towards zero.
Yeah. I think it's like reality TV for some people. Some people just get a kick out of it.
Yeah. But no, yeah, pretty much the airport is the only time that I actually see cable news.
And that might be ending. I heard that CNN a while ago is pulling out of all the airports.
Oh God, thank God. I mean, they could. Well, I guess
how much money?
It's terrible, but it's like, what are they going to replace it with?
Toxic Airwaves. How much money is it?
Yeah,
that'd be a fun fundraiser.
Our price is very expensive. 1 beer per month. That's what we're asking for from Dirtbags Bar, which is the best place in Southern Arizona to meet your future ex-wife.
Maybe we could offer the airport 1 beer a month.
Yeah.
The Tucson airport. The entire airport gets 1 beer a month from Dirtbags Bar to play our show. I don't know. They might get desperate enough to want it. That is one thing I'm kind of concerned about is, you know, are we going to be able to fly around in the future?
Yeah, I could see that getting cut off in the short term. I mean, all it takes is one airline, because that's probably not, I don't want to say definitely, but that's probably not the kind of thing that could come from the government directly, but that would come from private airlines. And so, I mean, just airlines, I mean, they're already just so ridiculously stupid about how they enforce masks and all that kind of stuff. And
it's so dumb.
Like that's,
you're sitting in this like little box right next to people packed in for hours, and you wearing a mask fixes it.
You just cannot pretend like these people have minds. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's something like Marty and Matt were talking about how awful TSA is, and I felt so happy hearing them shit on them, because every time I walk through, it's like, you guys are like mall cops pretending like you're keeping the world safe.
Because that's airplanes are the only time that I can't get around the mask thing. Other than that, it's fucking, can go in the trash.
I'm not wearing a World War II gas mask through the airport.
The last time I flew, it wasn't over my nose, and the TSA lady was like, "Sir, put it on over your nose," and I knew she was talking to me. She was like maybe 7 feet away. Dude. And I'm just like standing there waiting for my bag. She goes, "Sir, mask over your nose." And I'm like still like just staring at I'm 100% certain she's talking to me. And she goes, "Sir, mask over." She like yells at me. I'm like still staring at my bag. And she finally walks up, like stands next to me like 6 inches away, goes, "Sir, mask over your nose." I was like, "Can I help you?" And she goes, "Mask over your nose." I was like, "Oh, I'm just waiting for my bag." And just like and she's like, "You need to put your mask." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Mask over your nose." And I'm like pretending like I can't understand her. Like, just, you've got to fuck with these people. It's a tremendous amount of fun, because it's like, if you're legitimately confused, then they can't like, if you're like legit, like, "Oh no, I'm extremely stupid and have no idea what you're talking about." There's like, they can't, it doesn't, because if you're abrasive, then you might get arrested. It's entirely possible. But if you're just completely stupid and be like, "Look, all I'm doing is mirroring your IQ. That's all we're doing here." Like,
I think
you're
that
probably
is
an 80 tops. So
that is one of the most underrated trolls out there. That is just the best.
Yeah. Or like if somebody's really upset about the mask, like, I can't understand you. I just cannot understand. Like, they'll say something, like, I've done that before. They're like, "Sir, put on your," I was like, "I can't understand you." And they'll say something else and just keep like, "Please take your mask off. I cannot understand you." And then they take it off and say it, and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I got it." It's like, they're just, oh yeah, I love Ken M.
Yeah, Ken M was the inventor of the stupid troll. Gosh.
Yeah.
Those are so good. I had a Facebook account, a fake Facebook account, where I was doing that for a while. There's just...
Keep talking. I got something to show you that I can't show on air.
Okay. Yeah, people love to get upset over stupid things, and it's just so funny to exploit that. Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, Ken M is my hero. If you don't know who Ken M is, make sure to go look him up.
Yeah.
He
He's
would
got his own
troll.
subreddit.
Yeah. Does he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a Ken M. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't run it or anything, but there's a subreddit with just all of his stuff. Like, go to the Ken M subreddit, sort by most popular of all time, and laugh for an hour straight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think like kind of the cathedral's burning. It's the gist of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be toxic.
Yeah. And vaccine passports are the most, to me, like the top example of the cathedral burning. Like, there's a lot of people freaking out about it, and justifiably. Like, there's a lot of concerning stuff about it. But at the end of the day, that's just this massive power grab. And I think it's just the prime example of them absolutely losing control and like trying to institute that level of control. And I think it does two positive things. It backfires big time because I don't think they have the capacity to institute that kind of control in the US. And then I think it also like bifurcates society in a very good way, which is, there's people that are okay with living in a communist hellhole, and then there's everyone else. And the everyone else can be Republican, Democrat, all these different groups. It's like we've talked about before, the dividing line is authoritarian or not authoritarian. And I think vaccine passports very well could be one just massively tangible way that they force that kind of split in society, which I welcome. Like, I want as much like toxic turmoil and discourse, and as much, I don't know, bringing out these issues that are there and they're under the surface, and whatever we can do to bring that out and help people see it, I think is extremely important.
Yeah. I'm not quite there with you. I don't want to see things quite fall apart, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think I got my Remember Portland shirt. Used to be a nice city.
Mm-hmm.
Pal's Books,
Yeah.
Voodoo's Donuts, getting clam chowder on that boat on the river. That was pretty good. Now you just see carcass of what it used to be, but yeah, I think, ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to push people towards being more self-sovereign, and that's what all of these things have been. I mean, it was amazing to watch the reaction when Donald Trump was kicked off of Twitter and how everybody moved over to Parler. And I think that's what's these things are ultimately going to do, is it's going to fracture society and push people into their separate areas. And the people that, are on the fence are going to wake up, and join people that are really trying to, actually create a better world instead of just kind of peddling for their overlords.
Mm-hmm. And people tired of having their wealth and income stolen and fucked with,
dude,
are going to move on to Bitcoin.
It's slavery.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that needs to be, more of a meme, Bitcoin. And it's definitely something I'm going to make a more concerted effort to harp in, is like our relationship with the government due to inflation is slavery.
Yeah. And
I'm not happy with being a slave, so I use Bitcoin.
And it's like the number they released was like 5% or something like that. And so it's like, man, if the number that they're okay with putting out from their sources is 5%, can you even imagine what the real number is?
Yeah, multiply it by 10.
I'm gonna guess it's 50%. A lot.
It's
a lot. Yeah, I guess it's huge.
It's ginormous. But yeah. Got a shout out. Enjoyed your talk on BTC Kindergarten.
Appreciate
dope.
That's fun. Those are good guys. BTC Kindergarten on Twitter. They do a awesome show on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. Weinicus is one of those guys. I got to know him really well in Miami. Very, very good guy. Huge fan.
Weinicus deals some good memes, I've heard.
Yeah.
Got another shout out. If you're in Arizona and you've not bought a ticket for the Max Kaiser event, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
You fail to understand that it's a new technology that is as profound as the printing press or the electric light bulb. You're comparing it to things that you shouldn't be comparing it to. It makes no sense. You're talking nonsense. You fail to understand.
Yeah. Get maybe, 30 minutes of him screaming on stage in his short shorts and, Stacy will be there. She's awesome. I think it'll be, funny, fun, be around good Bitcoiners. Hit him up. He's got his tickets listed for like $100, but if you hit him up, he'll release some cheap tickets. Got my girlfriend going. I don't think she knows what's in store for her, so I think that's gonna be
it's gonna be an awesome show. Definitely go if at all possible.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff coming up with the Arizona Bitcoin Network too, with our meetups.
Yeah,
we've got one coming up at the end of the week. I think is it on Thursday night?
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah,
that's at Fate in Tempe, right?
Yeah, I think it's
the
Tempe one.
Yeah,
we've been meeting in Scottsdale, but that one's going to be in Tempe. Be around good Bitcoiners. Fate has good food.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good time. And I think like we cannot be demoralized right now.
Yeah,
I think is like the big thing. Like they want us to feel demoralized and just have this attitude of fuck you. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to be around people I like, and I'm not going to, let your insanity, ruin my fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm fine. 2020 was the best year of my entire life, and 2021 is looking even better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal. I'm like wildly optimistic about I think the next 1 to 3 years might be a little bit ugly, but 3 to 5 years beyond that, I'm extremely optimistic. I think it's going to be fantastic. These fuckers are pulling out all the stops to maintain control, and it's not working very well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be unrelenting. We're gonna have Bitcoin meetups no matter what here in Arizona, and we're not gonna do that Zoom bullshit. Well, we're doing some Zoom bullshit, but that's because we got people over the state. It's a book club, Block Size War Book Club, starting August 7th, Saturday, 6 p.m. Arizona time. That's going to be a good time.
And it's on Zoom, so you don't have to be in Arizona. If anybody can join.
We're going to read about why Gavin is a loser. But yeah. Oh yeah, one last shout out I have. Kelly Lannon did a great podcast with Phil Gibson.
Oh, nice.
Listening to that Boy Named Sue podcast.
Yeah.
He was in the chat earlier.
I'm a big fan of Phil.
More toxicity, please. Kelly, you didn't stick around to hear it. But you got any shout outs before we close out? Young Lurk. Where's Don?
If you are going to BitBlock Boom, DM me on Twitter, Telegram, something, because I will be there. So
dope.
Yeah. And I unfortunately won't be able to make it to the Max Kaiser thing because I'm going to be in Texas for basically the last half of August to go to BitDevs, and then there's a PlebFi conference the weekend after BitDevs, and then BitBlock Boom starts technically the 26th, but if at all possible and you're going, you should definitely get there on the 25th because there's going to be a Dallas Bitcoin meetup. BTC Lurk's going to be at BitBlock Boom. We're going to hang out. I'm going to buy him a drink. It'll be fun. And yeah, should be good. I went to BitBlock Boom last year, and it was probably one of the best trips of the year for sure.
Yeah, that seemed like a pretty good conference. There's going to be less shitcoiners than the Miami conference, right?
Oh yeah, it's as close to zero as you can get.
But will Voorhees be there?
No, definitely not Voorhees. Breedlove was a speaker. I don't know the status of that. He was a speaker last year. I don't know the status of all that. As far as BitBlock, I mean, I know the status of it. He's a piece of shit, but I don't know the BitBlock Boom specific. But he'll probably be speaking at some VC event that day anyway.
Yeah.
That's where he makes his money now.
Yeah, maybe he'll be building the new Prime coin for Jeff.
Yeah, is that what they're talking about?
I'm just assuming that's what it would be called.
Yeah,
I mean that would be fantastic if Voorhees was behind Amazon's coin, because then it would mean there'd probably be some security issue with it and it would fall apart.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. One last question before we close.
All right.
Is it a bad thing to celebrate shitcoin fails?
Oh, absolutely not. No, it's like celebrating a wife beater getting arrested or something like that. That's a reduction in harm on humanity. No, I think it's fantastically positive.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was a great answer. Cool. I think with that, we can close out. Unless you got any final things. Anything in the chat? Got some
Let's
fuck now.
see.
Cool. All right. I think that's a wrap.
All right.